The jungle of Helios Prime was unlike any terrain Captain Nathan Pierce had ever encountered. Towering bioluminescent trees stretched into the sky, their glowing branches casting eerie shadows over the dense undergrowth. Nathan's mission was to chart this alien world for potential colonial expansion, but his real work was surviving the endless dangers lurking in its depths. As he pushed through the foliage, a low, guttural growl froze him in his tracks. He instinctively gripped his rifle, scanning the shadows for movement. What emerged was unexpected: a massive, leopard-like creature with fur that shimmered faintly under the bioluminescent canopy. Its sleek body, once likely a testament to its predatory prowess, was gaunt and trembling. Its bioluminescent spots dimmed like dying embers. Nathan remained still, watching as the creature collapsed near the riverbank, its legs folding awkwardly beneath it. A closer look revealed the truth. The predator was starving. Its ribs jutted sharply against its fur, and its luminous eyes, though fierce, were clouded with exhaustion. The leopard growled weakly as Nathan stepped closer, its teeth bared in a futile display of defense. He crouched at a distance, setting his rifle aside and slowly opening his pack. "I'm not here to hurt you," he murmured, pulling out a water flask and a ration pack. "Let's see if we can help you out." The leopard's growl softened as he poured water into a shallow depression on the ground. Its glowing eyes flicked between Nathan and the water before it dragged itself forward, its movements labored. The sound of its tongue lapping at the water was strangely soothing, a fragile reminder of life on this hostile planet. Nathan tore open the ration pack, breaking the dense protein bar into smaller pieces. He tossed one toward the leopard, who sniffed it cautiously before devouring it in seconds. "Hungry, huh?" Nathan muttered, tossing another piece. The leopard ate with growing urgency, its gaze briefly locking with Nathan's. In its eyes, he saw not aggression, but desperation, and perhaps a glimmer of hope. The next day, Nathan returned to the riverbank, driven by a mix of curiosity and responsibility. The jungle buzzed with life, the sounds of alien birds and insects creating an otherworldly symphony. When he arrived, he found the leopard in the same spot, though it had shifted to a more shaded area. Its luminous spots seemed slightly brighter, its breathing less labored. Nathan knelt at a safe distance, pulling fresh supplies from his pack. The leopard growled softly, its ears flattening, but it didn't retreat. He placed another ration pack and a bottle of water within reach, then sat back on his haunches, giving the creature space. "You're looking better already," he said quietly. "Maybe you've still got some fight in you." The leopard sniffed at the offerings, then began to eat with deliberate, measured bites. Its growls subsided, replaced by a deep, rumbling purr that vibrated through the ground. Nathan blinked, surprised by the sound. It wasn't just relief, it was gratitude. As the leopard ate, Nathan studied it more closely. Its bioluminescent spots glowed faintly even in the daylight, shifting in intensity like a living constellation. Scars crisscrossed its flanks, evidence of battles fought and won, but also of the harshness of its existence. Finishing its meal, the leopard lifted its head, its glowing eyes fixed on Nathan. He tensed, unsure of its intentions, but the creature didn't move. Instead, it lay down, resting its massive head on its paws. "You trust me now?" Nathan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The leopard blinked slowly, a gesture that seemed almost deliberate. Nathan leaned back against a tree, exhaustion from his patrol catching up to him. The leopard's rhythmic breathing filled the silence, lulling him into an unspoken truce. For the first time since arriving on Helios Prime, Nathan felt a strange sense of peace. "I'll be back tomorrow," he promised, his voice steady but soft. "We'll figure this out together." The leopard rumbled faintly in response, a sound that echoed in Nathan's chest long after he left the riverbank. Nathan's visits to the riverbank became a daily ritual. Each morning he prepared supplies, rations, water, and medical patches, and trekked through Helios Prime's dense jungle. The once imposing predator, whom he began calling Vera, greeted him with a mixture of weariness and growing trust. Vera's condition improved rapidly. Her luminous fur, which had once dimmed with starvation, began to shimmer again under the jungle's bioluminescent canopy. She moved with increasing strength, her steps lighter, her posture regaining the regal confidence of a predator who ruled the wild. One afternoon, as Nathan approached the riverbank, Vera surprised him. Instead of watching from a distance, she rose and padded toward him, her massive paw silent on the jungle floor. Nathan froze instinctively, but her glowing eyes didn't hold aggression, only curiosity. "You're getting bold," Nathan said, his voice low and steady. He crouched, extending his hand slowly. Vera sniffed it cautiously before nudging it with her snout. The soft contact sent a jolt of adrenaline through Nathan, but also a strange warmth. "Guess we're friends now," he murmured, scratching behind her ear. Her rumbling purr was louder this time, a sound that vibrated through his chest like distant thunder. Their bond deepened with each visit. Nathan began observing Vera's behavior more closely, learning the subtle nuances of her communication, the tilt of her ears, the flick of her tail, the cadence of her growls and purrs, all conveyed a language he was slowly beginning to understand. One evening, as the jungle's bioluminescent plants lit the landscape in hues of green and blue, Vera led Nathan to a secluded grove. There, she hunted for the first time in his presence, stalking and taking down a small deer-like creature with precision and grace. She didn't eat immediately. Instead, she turned to Nathan, her glowing eyes watching for his reaction. "You're showing off now," he said with a grin. "I get it. You're back in charge." Vera rumbled softly before settling down to eat. Nathan sat nearby, marveling at her recovery. He knew their time together was finite. Vera belonged to this wild world, not to him. But for now, they shared an unspoken connection, one that transcended the barriers between species. The day came when Nathan's mission was complete. The outpost team was preparing to leave Helios Prime, their data collected, their job done. But for Nathan, the thought of leaving Vera behind weighed heavily. On his final visit to the riverbank, he found her waiting, as though she sensed this would be their last meeting. Her glowing eyes tracked his every move as he approached, her body language tense yet calm. Nathan knelt, unpacking a small pile of rations and a lightweight thermal blanket. "I won't be able to come back," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. "But you'll be okay now. You're stronger than when we met. You've got this." Vera stepped forward, her massive frame towering over him. She nudged his chest gently with her head, her purring resonant and warm. Nathan rested his hand on her mane, his fingers brushing against the glowing fur. "Thank you for trusting me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. For a moment, they stayed like that, man and predator united in quiet understanding. Then Vera pulled back, her gaze steady. She turned and padded into the jungle, her luminous form disappearing into the bioluminescent glow. Nathan stood there long after she was gone, the jungle sounds and colours swirling around him. He felt a hollow ache in his chest, but also a profound sense of fulfillment. Vera had survived, and in some way, so had he. As he returned to the outpost, Nathan knew he would carry the memory of Vera with him, a symbol of resilience, trust, and the rare beauty of connection in the vastness of the cosmos. Years had passed since Captain Nathan Pierce left Helios Prime, but the memory of Vera lingered in his mind. Life had moved forward, missions, promotions, and accolades, but no experience had left a mark on him quite like the bond he shared with the luminous Leopard. So when a research expedition brought him back to Helios Prime to assess the effects of human activities on its ecosystem, Nathan volunteered without hesitation. The jungle felt familiar, yet different as he stepped into its dense embrace. The towering bioluminescent trees cast their ethereal glow, and the hum of life surrounded him. But the scars of human presence were evident too, subtle clearings where machinery had once operated, paths worn down by repeated use. Nathan's chest tightened at the thought of what might have been lost, equipped with a small team. Nathan's task was simple: ensure that the local environment, particularly its native species, remained unspoiled. But deep down, he had another reason for returning. He had to know if Vera was still alive. As they set up their camp near the old riverbank, Nathan's thoughts raced. Would she even remember him? Had she survived? And if she had, what would he find? That evening, as the others worked on equipment, Nathan wandered toward the familiar clearing where he and Vera had shared countless quiet moments. The air was thick with the scents and sounds of the jungle, but it felt different now, quieter, heavier. Then he heard it, a low, resonant growl that sent a jolt through him. Turning slowly, he saw her. She emerged from the shadows, her luminous fur brighter than he remembered, her powerful frame sleek and unscarred. She paused, her glowing eyes locking onto his. For a moment, neither of them moved, the years dissolving between them. "Vera," Nathan whispered, his voice catching. She stepped closer, her movements fluid and deliberate. Nathan dropped to one knee, holding out a hand. She sniffed it cautiously, then nudged him with her head, her deep purring vibrating through the air. Nathan laughed, the sound filled with relief and joy. "You're still here," he murmured, running his hand through her bioluminescent fur. "You've done well for yourself." But Vera wasn't alone. As she stepped aside, two smaller figures emerged from the jungle. Leopard cubs, their fur dappled with glowing spots, approached cautiously, their curious eyes fixed on Nathan. He froze, his heart pounding as they sniffed at his boots, chirping softly. "These are yours," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "You've built a family." Vera rumbled in response, nudging one of the cubs forward. Nathan knelt, extending a hand. The cub pressed its tiny head against his palm, its warmth spreading through him like sunlight, breaking through clouds. Nathan stayed with Vera and her cubs until the first light of dawn. As they played around him, tumbling and chirping, he marveled at how their existence symbolized resilience and renewal in the face of Helios Prime's hardships. Vera, once abandoned and starving, had thrived, and now her lineage carried the promise of survival. When he returned to camp, his team was waiting, their expressions a mix of curiosity and concern. "Captain Pierce, we were worried," one of the scientists said. "What happened out there?" Nathan hesitated, unsure how to explain the extraordinary reunion. Finally, he said, "I found an old friend and her family. They're thriving." Over the next few days, Nathan documented Vera and her cubs carefully, observing their behavior while keeping a respectful distance. His reports painted a vivid picture of Helios Prime's delicate ecosystem, highlighting the importance of protecting creatures like Vera to preserve the planet's biodiversity. The findings were crucial. Human activities, though minor, had already begun to disrupt the natural balance of the jungle. Nathan's data provided compelling evidence to halt further expansion and establish a protected zone. But it wasn't enough for Nathan to leave it there. He approached the mission's directors, advocating passionately for more active measures to safeguard Helios Prime. "We have a responsibility," he argued. "These creatures are more than just part of the ecosystem. They're symbols of what this planet can teach us about survival, trust, and coexistence." The directors agreed, granting Nathan the authority to oversee the development of a sanctuary for Helios Prime's native species. The region near the riverbank, where Vera and her cubs lived, would become the heart of this initiative. On the final night of his stay, Nathan returned to the clearing. Vera was waiting, her cubs playing in the bioluminescent glow. He knelt beside her, resting a hand on her mane. "We did it," he said softly. "You gave me a reason to fight for this place, and now it'll stay safe. For you, for them." Vera rumbled deeply, her glowing eyes reflecting the jungle's soft light. Nathan stayed until the stars blanketed the sky, his heart full of purpose and gratitude. He had returned to Helios Prime for answers, but what he found was far more profound, a legacy of trust and renewal that would endure long after he was gone. The success of the Sanctuary Initiative brought global attention to Helios Prime. While many celebrated the protected zone as a triumph of conservation, others viewed the alien planet's unique species as opportunities for profit. News of Vera and her cubs, described in Nathan's reports as majestic bioluminescent predators, reached the ears of intergalactic poaching syndicates. One night, as Nathan patrolled the sanctuary's perimeter, alarms blared from the monitoring station. His communicator buzzed with a frantic report. "Captain Pierce, unauthorized ships have landed near the eastern border. Movement detected heading toward the sanctuary." Nathan's stomach dropped. Poachers. Grabbing his rifle, he sprinted through the jungle, the bioluminescent plants casting eerie shadows around him. When he reached Vera's territory, he found her pacing near the den, her cubs chirping nervously behind her. Her luminous spots glowed fiercely, her body language a mixture of anger and fear. "They're after you," Nathan said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. He crouched, meeting her glowing eyes. "We'll stop them. Together." Vera rumbled in agreement, her ears swiveling toward the faint sound of approaching footsteps. Nathan took position behind a dense thicket, his rifle trained on the clearing ahead. Vera crouched low, her sleek body blending into the glowing foliage. The poachers were well armed, their movements precise. They carried stun weapons and nets, clearly intending to capture rather than kill. Nathan counted 6 figures moving toward the den, their searchlights sweeping across the jungle floor. "Stay hidden," he whispered to Vera. She rumbled softly in response, her tail flicking with anticipation. As the poachers approached the den, Nathan fired a warning shot, the sound echoing through the jungle. "Stand down," he shouted, his voice cutting through the night. "This is a protected zone. Leave now or you'll regret it." The poachers hesitated, their lights swinging toward Nathan's position. The leader, a towering figure with a scarred face, sneered. "One soldier against all of us? You're out of your depth." "Try me," Nathan replied, firing again. This time, the shot struck a nearby tree, showering the poachers with glowing sap. Vera took the opportunity to strike. She leapt from the shadows with breathtaking speed, her claws slashing through the net launcher one poacher carried. The others scrambled to react, but her ferocity was overwhelming. One by one, she incapacitated them, her glowing spots a blur of light and motion. Nathan moved in tandem with Vera, picking off the poachers who tried to aim at her. The cubs, emboldened by their mother's bravery, yipped and darted around the clearing, distracting the attackers further. Within minutes, the poachers were subdued. The remaining 2 fled, their cries of retreat echoing through the jungle. Vera stood tall, her glowing eyes scanning the area for any lingering threats. Nathan approached her cautiously, his rifle still raised. "You okay?" he asked, his voice softer now. She rumbled in response, nuzzling his shoulder briefly before returning to her cubs. The attempted attack galvanized the sanctuary's defenses. Nathan worked tirelessly with his team to install advanced surveillance systems and deploy automated drones to patrol the perimeter. The Council approved additional funding, recognizing the importance of protecting Helios Prime's rare and magnificent creatures. Despite the heightened security, Nathan knew the greatest guardian of the sanctuary was Vera herself. News of her defense against the poachers spread quickly among the colony, solidifying her status as the heart of the reserve. Scientists and conservationists marveled at her intelligence and maternal instincts, while Nathan continued to advocate for her protection. One evening, as Nathan walked the sanctuary's paths, he found Vera waiting for him near the riverbank. Her cubs were playing nearby, their glowing spots casting soft light over the water. Nathan sat beside her, resting his rifle against a tree. "You're something else," he said, running a hand through her shimmering fur. "Not just a survivor, a protector." Vera purred deeply, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Nathan followed her line of sight, watching as the jungle glowed faintly under the light of the twin moons. The sanctuary, once a dream, had become a reality, but its survival would depend on continued vigilance. As the cubs tumbled and chirped around them, Nathan felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He had returned to Helios Prime not just to ensure its protection, but to honor the bond he shared with Vera. Together, they had faced challenges that tested their strength and trust, emerging stronger each time. In the quiet of the jungle, surrounded by the life they had fought to preserve, Nathan rested his hand on Vera's head. "We'll keep this place safe," he said softly. "For them, for all of us." Vera rumbled in agreement, her glowing eyes reflecting the stars above. As the cubs curled up beside her, Nathan knew their partnership was more than just a connection between man and beast. It was a promise to protect the wild beauty of Helios Prime, a legacy that would endure for generations to come. The peace of the sanctuary was shattered weeks later when alarms blared across the monitoring station. Nathan, reviewing data on the sanctuary's expanding ecosystem, rushed to the command center. The holographic display showed multiple unauthorized ships entering Helios Prime's atmosphere. "Poachers again?" Nathan asked, his tone grim. The technician nodded. "But these aren't small-time operators, Captain. This looks like a coordinated syndicate raid. Their equipment is military-grade." Nathan's stomach sank. This wasn't just about Vera and her cubs. This was an assault on everything they had built. He grabbed his gear, activated his communicator, and called out to the defense teams. "All units, report to the sanctuary. This is a full-scale incursion. We hold the line." As Nathan approached the sanctuary, his heart pounded. Vera was already moving, her glowing form a streak of light through the jungle. Her cubs stayed close to her, their small bodies weaving through the dense foliage. The first raiding party breached the sanctuary perimeter with plasma rifles and stun cannons. Nathan fired from cover, his shots precise, taking down 2 attackers before they could advance further. Vera joined the fray, her claws tearing through nets and disarming attackers with astonishing agility. Her glowing spots were a blur of motion, a living phantom striking fear into the poachers. The cubs, though young, mirrored their mother's instincts. They darted around the attackers, pulling at cables and tripping equipment. Their small but coordinated efforts disrupted the raiders, buying Nathan and his team crucial time. Amid the chaos, Nathan spotted a larger ship hovering above the sanctuary. Its mounted turrets glinted ominously in the moonlight. Before he could react, a beam of energy shot from the ship, targeting the heart of the sanctuary. The ground shook as trees and rocks exploded in a fiery blast. "Vera, get the cubs out of here!" Nathan shouted, his voice barely audible over the roar of destruction. But Vera didn't run. Instead, she roared, a sound so powerful it silenced the jungle. Her glowing eyes burned with intensity as she turned toward the hovering ship. Nathan watched in awe as she leapt onto a nearby ledge, her powerful body coiled like a spring. She launched herself into the air, landing on the ship's hull with a deafening crash. Her claws tore into the metal, sparks flying as she disabled its mounted turret. The ship wobbled, its engine straining under the assault. Nathan took the opportunity to fire his grappling line, climbing up to disable the ship's remaining systems. Together, man and beast brought the ship down, its massive form crashing into the jungle with a thunderous impact. The aftermath of the raid was bittersweet. The sanctuary had suffered damage, but thanks to Nathan, Vera, and the defense teams, the poachers were defeated. Their forces. Scattered reinforcements from the colony arrived, securing the perimeter and ensuring no attackers remained. Vera emerged from the jungle, her cubs following close behind. Her fur was singed in places, but her glowing spots remained as brilliant as ever. She approached Nathan, her luminous eyes meeting his. He knelt, resting a hand on her head. "You're incredible," he said softly. "This place wouldn't stand without you." Vera rumbled deeply, nuzzling his chest. Her cubs chirped and tumbled around them, their playful energy a sharp contrast to the battle they had just survived. Nathan couldn't help but laugh, the tension of the raid melting away in the warmth of the moment. The Council declared the sanctuary a no-fly zone, with orbital defences deployed to prevent future incursions. Nathan was promoted to head of planetary conservation efforts, ensuring the sanctuary's protection for generations to come. One evening, as the jungle glowed softly under the light of Helios Prime's twin moons, Nathan sat on a ridge overlooking the sanctuary. Vera lay beside him, her cubs curled up in the grass. The stars above seemed brighter, the air filled with the soft hum of life. "We've built something amazing here," Nathan said, scratching behind Vera's ear. "You and your family are safe now. No one will take that from you." Vera purred, her glowing eyes reflecting the starlight. The bond they had forged, one of trust, resilience and mutual respect, was more than just a partnership. It was a testament to what humanity could achieve when it embraced, rather than conquered, the wild. As the cubs played around him, their luminous forms blending with the jungle's natural glow, Nathan felt a profound sense of peace. Together, he and Vera had faced every challenge, turning a single act of compassion into a legacy of hope and unity. Their story would endure, a shining example of coexistence in the vast, untamed beauty of the cosmos.